Brian,
Mark DeGennaro.
Mark. Well, no, Mark is,
Okay.
he's trying to connect. He's
Okay.
back and rolling. There's Mark.
Hey, hi Carl.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Hi, Ian.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. All right, so we're just missing Rosa. She responded she's going to be on. Maureen?
I think everybody said they were going to be on, Carl.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Maureen's frozen. Hey, Maureen, can you hear us? Maureen, can you hear us? You're still muted. There's Rosa. Hi, Rosa.
I'm having a problem with the YouTube.
All right, stand by. I think we're experiencing some technical difficulties.
Almost there. Okay, I think we're good.
Yep. Says live and recording.
Yeah, it said live, but while it was trying to load, it was giving me this for that whole time. But I think we're good now.
Okay. All right, the December 17th, 2020 work session of the Wyckoff Board of Adjustment is now in session in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News. All newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Members of the public are welcome to be present at this meeting. However, in accordance with Section 7A of the Open Public Meetings Act, participation on the part of the public at this meeting will not be entertained. The Township of Wyckoff Open Public Meetings Act. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, and in consideration of Executive Order Number 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey, the Zoning Board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Zoning Board of the Township of Wyckoff scheduled for Thursday, December 17th, 2020, will be conducted virtually through Zoom technology, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30, and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call-in technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as a security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website homepage at www.wyckoff-nj.com as a news item. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the Affordable Housing Development fee requirements of the township. Information can be obtained from the Code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8, on the township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Ms. Mitchell, roll call, please.
Mr. Tanis,
Here.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Here.
Mr. Hubert,
Present.
Ms. Evans,
Here.
Mr. Christ,
Here.
Ms. Riato,
Here.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Here.
Mr. Borst,
Here.
Chairman Fry.
Here, thank you. Okay, we'll jump right into old business, the approval of the November 19th, 2020 work session and public meeting minutes. I read through both the work session and the public meeting minutes. I didn't notice any errors or changes to be made. Board, if you recognize any errors or omissions, please bring it to our attention now. Anyone notice anything?
No.
Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November 19th, 2020 meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hubert. Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Kalpagian. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Christ,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay, next order of business, resolutions for payment number 20-12. I'll read through these quickly. Township engineer review, the Janke application 460 Grandview Ave for $205.50. The Puleo application 300 Wiley Place for $342.50. Return of escrow, Hurley Robert 37 Van Blarcom Lane, $831.50. Professional service resolutions, Puleo application $200. Janke application $400. Cangelosi application $400. And the Mosera application $100. Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 20-12?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kalpagian, second, Mr. Borst.
Sure. Second.
Mr. Tanis,
You're on mute.
Yes.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Mr. Christ,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. All right, one other additional correspondence was in the packet, just to put it on record. The board attorney, Mr. Becker, was directed to provide a letter for the Mosera application, just to memorialize granting them the extension of 1 year, which we did approve previously. So that letter has gone out. A copy of that letter was in the packet as well. Thank you, Mr. Becker. Okay, we have 3 resolutions to be memorialized. The Cangelosi application, 535 Concord Place, the Puleo application, 300 Wiley Place, and the Janke application, 460 Grandview Ave. I'm sure everyone remembers, but if not, the Cangelosi application. We have that in our packet again for this evening because they opted to bifurcate the application and get through the construction portion of the house proper previously, which the board did accept, and we will vote on memorializing that resolution. Then we have them again tonight because they had a lot of inconsistencies with their engineering plans, the site plans, the landscape plan. So much that we had to have them clean that up and provide some better details. So they did. So we'll be hearing that tonight. So I believe we can do all three of these all at the same time because everyone was present, right?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I did read through each of the resolutions. I didn't notice any issues, anything that had to be added or changed. But by all means, if anyone did notice something, please bring it to our attention now. Okay. All right. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to memorialize the three resolutions, Cangelosi, Pulio, and Janke.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Borst, second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Who was that?
Tanis,
Mr. Tanis? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Mr. Christ,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenecker,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay, so for tonight, we do have two applications, Cangelosi, 535 Concord Place, and then the Brinza application. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. That's 305 Voorhees Ave. So we'll start off with the Cangelosi application. Again, this is just a follow-up. It's a new application, but again, there's a lot of the site issues that had to be cleaned up. So if Mr. DeGennaro, if you would, why don't you go through the changes that were made?
Sure. So the application was heard last month. It was bifurcated at the request of the attorney, and the board approved that. They resubmitted a landscape plan. The points of concern were that the landscape plan did not match the engineer's site plan as far as layout of the pool patio, location of a pool equipment shed. And I think it was something about the retaining walls around the driveway. They've resubmitted a landscape plan dated 11/26/2020, revised 11/26/2020, revision number 2, prepared by Visionscape Design. You should all have that in front of you. In addition, you should have a site plan prepared by Weissman Engineering, last revised 11/23/20, sheet 1 of 1, which basically shows the pool patio in a rectangular fashion that's consistent with that shown on the landscape plan, as well as the proposed location of the 8x10 pool shed, equipment shed, location of the generator, and some trees, or at least one tree that I see that was being proposed to be saved, the 21-inch to the southeasterly corner of the property. The notes that I have is that the filter shed was going to be 8x10 max and supposed to be 10 feet off the line, and they've complied with that. An 8x10 shed can actually be 6 feet off the line, but I know that the pool equipment is existing. It was already there, and the shed is going to enclose that pool equipment. Also, the recommendation was to incorporate 5 shade trees on the site, 3.5-inch caliper, as well as to specify the siding to be stone and hardy. But I don't know that we have that here on the landscape plan, but I know that it should be in the resolution if that's the case. That's all I have.
The only thing I could add, the last resolution you approved was the stone and hardy for the siding. So that's already in the previous resolution, and they are applying for a soil movement permit tonight too.
Oh, correct. Thank you. Forgot about that. Soil moving is for the purpose of being able to construct a driveway and excavate the steep slope that's in the front yard.
Okay. All right, so there were some trees that I think they decided at the last minute that they wanted to keep, others that they identified that they wanted to remove. So I kind of marked up the previous site plan, and it looks like they made the changes that they had specified at the last meeting. I also had a note, we wanted the shed at least 10 feet off. So they're 10.5 feet off to that equipment shed. It is 8 by 10. Before it was a much larger structure. So now it's identified as 8 by 10. The coping around the pool or the patio, we had specified, since those two did not match at all, the shape of the patio was completely different from what the site plan was showing, and the landscape plan. We wanted that to be at least 10 feet off, and it looks like they are at 11.4 feet. They've shown it. It does match between the landscape drawing now and the site plan. We also wanted screening around the generator. They have relocated the generator. They are showing screening around that now. As far they do have the AC units located. I don't think we had an issue with that. There's so many arborvitae that they're going to be planting. I don't think we really needed any additional landscaping around those units right by the house. So I think that was fine.
But they
So
did
it looks
move them,
like-
Carl.
Excuse me?
I think on the previous drawing, they were in the back corner by the garage, and they moved them to the other side of the house. Just so you know, but I agree. I think they're fine where they are.
Yeah. Okay. So those were that was the bulk of the notes that I had from last time. Board, is there anything else that, and the shade trees are in? I guess we specified 3.5 caliber. It looks like caliper, that's what they're showing right now. And they did put the 5 across the front of the property. So, you know, what's funny, I guess I drove past, I only caught a glimpse before the last meeting. It was dark, but I had some time before this meeting, and I took a ride down to see where the cutout, the new curb cutout is going to be for the circular driveway. And that is significant in the difference in elevation from street. If you look at that hill that they are going to take down. So that's why we had so much discussion about the landscape plan. And I think Mr. Forrest is the one that said, it's like, you've got to explain to me how you're actually going to control that, because it's a roughly 10-foot elevation change from the street up to the base of the stairs at the front of the house, which is rather significant. It's a pretty short run. So I guess they've addressed that. They've changed some landscaping in that as well. Board, anything else to comment on?
I did have a note about the fence. Wrought iron fence per landscape plan. Was that noted on any of the new drawings? I don't know. I just had a bullet on fence on my drawings from last week.
Yeah, it's noted on the landscape plan, proposed pool code compliant black aluminum fence and self-latching gates.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thanks, Warren. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, then we'll hear testimony in the public meeting. Let's move on to the other application. The second application we have is the Brinza application 305 Voorhees, block 287, lot 5.01. Mr. DeGenero, if you would give us a rundown on this, please.
So 305 Voorhees Ave is a single-family home in the RA 25 zone. currently non-conforming due to lot area, frontage, depth, front, side, rear yard, and accessory structure setbacks. The property also exceeds the maximum permitted principal building lot coverage. The applicant's proposing to expand the existing structure, requiring variance relief. The lot size is existing at 13,261 in a zone that requires 25,000. The frontage is 100 feet in a zone that requires 125. The depth is 140 in a zone that requires 150. The front yard setback existing is at 25.5, where 40 feet is required. Proposed is also 25.5, remains unchanged. Principal building side yard setback, existing number 1 is 20 feet and proposed is unchanged. Existing side yard number 2 is 10 feet, proposed also remains unchanged. Principal building rear yard setback existing is at 37 feet, where 40 feet is required. Lot coverage, principal building is at 16.7% existing. Proposed goes to 17.4%, where a max of 15% is required. Accessory lot coverage existing is 1%, proposed remains unchanged at 1%. The impervious coverage is maximum permitted is 39.1%, and the proposed is at 47.3%. There's a new 3-bedroom septic been recently installed, and the stormwater management plan is not required.
Mark, do we not know the existing impervious coverage?
I have a question mark there, so no, I don't know it. I wasn't able to decipher it from the plans.
Okay. All right, so if anyone took a ride by this, you'll see the house is under construction, changes have already been made. But, you know, the first thing that struck me was, well, how is it that this didn't come before the board sooner? And it looks like the reason I guess is because a lot of the changes are outside of the setbacks. So they made some cosmetic changes to the home above the front door and to the left side. And they are conforming. So I had to do a deeper dive to see, well, wait a minute, what's going on with this? But that's what it seems to be. There was one item that's identified on the Schedule J, and actually on the cover page, it asks item H: have there been any previous applications before a township board involving the premises? They checked off no, but we do have a letter. We have a note on the history of this property, 305 Voorhees Ave. In 1955, a variance was granted for a 10-foot side yard setback for the construction of an addition to the right side of the home. So that explains why the right-hand side has been reduced. They were granted a previous variance on that right-hand side to go to 10 feet. They are not doing any construction at that location. Again, it's relatively cosmetic, and it's outside of the 20-foot or right at the 20-foot, so it's conforming. No other changes were being made. I guess there's a fireplace and then the front portico. So the portico is really probably the biggest thing that's driving this, extending out in the front yard setback. But the only other question I have is there's a tremendous amount of asphalt on this property. I almost thought it was like a doctor's office or something before. It's a rear load garage, so you have to drive all the way to the back. It's, from what I understand, I guess it's existing. They're not intending to make any changes to it. But because of that, they are well in excess of impervious coverage. So I think we should have some discussion on thoughts. And since we don't know what the existing is, maybe we'll get some thoughts on some testimony as to maybe how they plan to either control that or bring that down any way possible. That's a thought I had. It's a unique property. The shape of it's unique. And they're only doing some minor changes to the structure, but that's what I see as to why it's already under construction and it hadn't come before us before. Does that sound right, Mr. DeGennaro?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, board, any questions?
I just had one quick question, Carl.
Yeah.
I was confused. It looks like the front yard setback remained unchanged.
Yeah.
I was always under the impression when you add the portico you're measuring to the first step. Wouldn't that change what the front yard, the existing front yard and proposed would be?
Yeah, so it's one of the questions I have as well. I don't know if there was something there before and it was already counted, because there are stairs now, so it might be that there was something there and it was already counted before. That's why it's unchanged.
Yeah, I was confused. It looked like they were adding an extra step too. If I looked at this.
I think the confusion came when I spoke with the architect and I explained to him that the existing steps, I believe and if I recall correctly, the existing steps were always there. They were just putting the portico over it. And I explained to him that because you put a portico over it, now you got to measure to the first step. And I think by showing it as being 25.5 feet to the first step in the existing condition is factual. He actually measured it to the first step where we don't really count the stoop. So really your front yard setback without the portico would be 34 feet, 35 feet to the house. Existing, but I think that's where he listed it as an existing at 25.5 based on my conversation with him for the existing steps. I don't think it's a major thing.
No, I didn't either. I was just confused.
So it's 25.6 to the steps. It's 28.6 to the portico, the structure itself.
Right, but the variance, because of the portico, the variance is for 25.6.
Right. Yep. Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Any other questions?
Are there two
The only
separate?
question I have is on the, what type of product that they use on the exterior. I see the rendering, a digitized rendering of the front facade. It's just one question on what it is they're going to use for the front facade, what materials they use. Is that siding, i.e., vinyl siding, or what it is?
Okay, we can ask the applicant.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Is this two separate properties with that little piece in the back, or has it been combined into one?
No, I would hope it's one lot. I mean, the survey indicates one property. It's very irregular, I would say. I would agree.
Because it's two different blocks. That's why I was just curious.
I don't know if that block, that's probably the old block. They may have merged it years ago. I don't know. That's not the current block. That's a good point.
Yeah, that was the only thing that jumped out at
It's
me.
probably that's probably the old, I don't know what the FM stands for. Could it be formally? File map block? I don't know. So they probably merged those two lots to create the new lot 5.01.
Okay.
And they still listed it on the survey.
So that shed, that's where it becomes sort of irregular, because you look behind the shed and then it just ends. There's another fence, right? So you have the driveway on the one side, and then you have that bump out where the shed is. Now, that's a good question, Mark.
Well, yeah, you can see that it's one property because they have the hedgerow going around the whole right side and rear line. So they'll just have to ask for clarification.
Yeah.
There's a good chance it was two at one time, but to Mark's point, it probably, if the owner owned both of those, it merged by law. So that's that's why it's considered one lot today.
Yeah.
Okay. We can ask the applicant. Any other questions, board? No. Okay. All right, me neither. Okay. How are we doing? Oh, we're right there. Perfect.
Right on time.
I like it. Okay. Why don't we, so make a motion, we can close the work session, and I don't think anybody need to take a break, or we can roll right into the public meeting. Yeah. Okay.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we'll officially close the work session. Okay. The December 17th, 2020 public meeting of the Wykoff Board of Adjustment is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wykoff. At least 48 hours prior to the meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Township of Wykoff Open Public Meetings Act. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, and in consideration of Executive Order Number 103 issued by Governor Murphy on March 9th, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey, the Zoning Board of the Township of Wykoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Zoning Board of the Township of Wykoff scheduled for Thursday, December 17th, 2020 will be conducted virtually through Zoom technology and will be live streamed on the Township of Wykoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting via through Zoom, telephone call, and technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wykoff website's homepage at www.wykoff-nj.com as a news item. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the Affordable Housing Development Fee requirements of the Township. Information can be obtained from the Code of the Township of Wykoff, Chapter 113-8, on the Township's website, www.wykoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Ms. Mitchell, roll call, please.
Mr. Tanis,
Here.
Mr. Kalpasian,
Here.
Mr. Hubert,
Present.
Mr. Christ,
Here.
Miss Evans,
Here.
Miss Riato,
Here.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Here.
Mr. Borst,
Here.
Chairman Fry.
Here. Okay, Maureen, do you have a flag you can post on the screen? If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Rubenacker, if you would lead us, please.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Maureen.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we cleaned up the normal order of business in the work session, went through the work session and public meeting minutes from the previous meeting, resolution 20-12, and the resolutions for the Cangelosi application, Pulio application, and Janke application. Tonight, we have two applications that we'll be hearing: the Cangelosi application, 535 Concord Place, Block 311, Lot 3, and the Brinza application, 305 Voorhees Ave, Block 287, Lot 5.01. Okay, we'll start off with the Cangelosi application. I saw them before. The team looks like they're ready, all masked up. Mr. Weissman's figuring out how to get them off mute.
Good evening, Chairman Fry.
Good evening.
Harold, for the record, Harold Cook here on behalf of the applicant, Nick and Debbie Cangelosi. We're in Mr. Weissman's office. I have Mr. Cangelosi here and Mr. Weissman. And we had the privilege of hearing the comments during the work session. And this is the second half of the bifurcated application. The variances sought with respect to this application are an existing side yard building setback of an accessory structure, which is a swimming pool of 6.7 feet, while 20 feet are required, and a soil movement variance for soil movement in excess of 100 cubic yards. The application is actually the landscaping application and the site plan, as was indicated earlier. With respect to the principal dwelling, the variances were granted at the last meeting. In accordance with your comments, I think the board's concern is the driveway cut and the grade. So I'd like to have Mr. Weissman address that. Then if there are any other questions with respect to anything else, I think the board appeared to be pretty comfortable and that the applicant made the changes and did what the board requested. So Bob was sworn in at the last meeting. Technically, this is a new, semi-new application because we bifurcated it. So you want to swear him in again?
Yeah, Mr. Weissman, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Again, just for the record, stating your name, spelling your last name.
It's Robert Weissman, Weissman. Business address 686 Godwin Avenue, Midland Park.
Great. Mr. Chairman, we did obviously acknowledge him and accept him as an expert in engineering at the last meeting. Mr. Weissman has been here on numerous occasions, so I think I see a nod there.
Yeah, absolutely. His credentials are acceptable.
All right,
Okay.
Mr.
Thank
Weissman, your license is still good standing since the last meeting,
This
correct?
week, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Cook, I noticed that there was a revised plot plan, that's the site plan and the landscape plan. If we can mark the only exhibit, we marked the whole application last time as A1. So if we mark the plot plan as A2 and the landscape plan as A3.
Great.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Weissman, you were with me when you heard the board's concerns about the driveway cut and the grade. It was mentioned by one of the board members that it looked like an increase of about 10 feet. Would you address what is actually taking place there and how the applicant intends to handle it?
Yes, we're obviously cutting into the grade to have this secondary access to the front of the house. I think you mentioned at the last meeting about the need for the Cangelosis to have a front access with a relatively level entrance into the house because there's quite a few steps in the garage so they can drop off and access the house. So that's the need for the driveway to come across the front. Then we start sloping the driveway down. Once we get past the front door, we'll go down at a 9.5% grade down to the entrance, the new entrance down onto Concord Place on the north side of the property. Obviously, it's going to be cut in. We're going to be removing some soil. I'll get into the soil moving quantities in a minute. We propose a retaining wall along the northeast corner of the house, parallel with the driveway to retain the grade. And then we're sloping up again in the northeast portion of the property to achieve the driveway access. We're going to actually introduce a new wall we have on the there's a tree that's given to remain on the northeast portion of the property with a small wall there to retain the tree and the soil around it. So that's the need for the driveway. The amount of soil needed to perform that, we are just for the driveway, got about 267 cubic yards coming out to construct this driveway. There's other soil moving related items that are going to be done in the slot. One was the septic that was installed. That's the basic intent of the driveway. If you'd like, you go around and just go through the other changes we made on the plan.
Yeah, Mr. Weissman, so the only question I kind of have is, when all is said and done, when you're on Concord, will you see just sort of the cutout? Will it be sloped on either side of the driveway, steep coming down to the driveway? Or is that material?
It'll be a relatively mild grade, 3-to-1 slope on the right side if you drive up the driveway from Concord, and then the wall to retain it near the house. The left side will be a much milder grade. We're going to be cutting that slope. It'll be sloping down towards the driveway on both sides, but not to any substantial degree. But yeah, it'll be cut through and then get up to the grade in front of the house.
Okay. So, and I think one of the board members mentioned it last time, because I think we were asking about maybe plantings up there. I'm just trying to figure if someone's pulling out of there, is it wall and wall on each side where they won't be able to see until they start to nose out into the road? Or will it be gradual enough that their line of vision for pulling out on the street won't be an issue?
No, we actually cut the grade back. I originally envisioned a wall coming down, but and the last meeting was brought up too about the possible site vision obstruction, the site distances you point out, but this is just be great. And when you get down towards the road, it's gonna be level. You have like 15 feet that you could see both ways. So it's gonna be more than enough. Won't be any site obstructions.
Okay. All right, that was the big concern I had with that.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Board, any other questions about the driveway?
No.
Okay. All right, yeah, Mr. Weissman, why don't you walk us through some of the other changes that were made?
Sure, I'll just come down, clockwise around the house, get down to the southeast corner. We relocated the seepage pits and the line from there to save a 21-inch tree down at the northeast quadrant of the property, shifting the seepage pits over and the lines leading from the house and the grading in that area to save that tree. Coming across the southerly portion of the property, we have stairs going down to basement entrance on the left side of the driveway. We provided a dimension there that Mark was looking for. We now coming around to the rear yard by the septic. We have the generator located in that area. We relocated the air conditioning units from there to the north side of the house alongside the new addition. We go up to the pool and we now have a new patio, which is again 11.4 feet off that northerly property line. Then we go to the pool equipment shed, which is an 8x10, which is 10.5 feet off that northerly line. Again, the AC is located over there. It looks like the landscape plan does conform or match my plan, so I think we're all on the same page. All the variances you spoke to last time as far as the building coverage and the setback from the northerly property line. Other than that, I think we answered all the questions and concerns that the board had at the last meeting.
Yeah, at least you hit the notes that I had. Board, any questions for the engineer? Anything that was not picked up between the last application and this one?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
With regard to the dry well and the driveway drain in the southeast corner of the property, my only concern is we're trying to save that 21-inch tree. Well, it's two questions actually I have. The first is the location of that 6-inch PVC trench drain and connecting pipe to the dry well. It looks like it's going to be kind of close to and maybe influence the root structure of that 21-inch tree. The second question I have is probably more towards Mr. Borst, if he had an opinion on the 21-inch tree of its condition, and allowing that tree to remain, or if it's worth saving, or if it would be better to start from a clean slate since he's proposing 5 new trees around the property.
So I have not been back. Hold on. I remember looking at the tree last time, and I don't remember what condition it's in. So, I mean, it's really, I think the applicants is going to have to tell us if that tree is conditioned to stay or not, because I don't recall.
So, all right, that's fair. My suggestion would be, the concern I have is I see it every day that the contractor says, well, the engineer's plan calls for the 6-inch pipe to be right there. And then it's right within the influence of the root structure, and they just hack through because it says that's where the plan says I have to put it. I get it, but they don't realize that there's flexibility in relocating a dry well at times. If the tree is something that the applicant feels is a quality tree and that the board agrees that it's a quality tree, it should be saved. I think I would recommend relocating the trench drain connecting pipe and possibly the dry well closer to Fairfield, to the right of the driveway where he's got the stabilized construction access. Maybe that'll be farther away and it'll protect the tree roots. My other thought is, you know, we made an effort to try to save a lot of mature trees on the property initially with the previous owner. But it seems like with the type of improvements that he's proposing and the detailed landscaping that is being proposed as well, it almost seems like we probably should consider the short-term loss for the long-term gain. And by that, I mean removing that 21-inch tree, getting 5 or possibly 6 nice new shade trees planted along the entire perimeter of the property, possibly 2 along Fairfield, 3 along Concord, and basically create a new site that will ultimately look better in the long run.
I don't disagree. Again, I don't recall what that tree's condition is, so.
The only reason I'm pointing that out is because, you know, when the builder first bought the house, not this current owner, the previous owner, the property was very well vegetated. And he had intentions of cutting down a lot of trees, and many of them needlessly. But now there's a changed condition here where the new owner is looking to build a circular driveway along that front line where, you know, it kind of worked where you saved the 24-inch tree on the northeast side and you saved the 21-inch tree along the southeast side to kind of balance things out a bit. Now you're losing the one on the north because of the construction and the slope disturbance. You're leaving one tree. I'm all for leaving and saving trees, but you know, at what price? I mean, is it going to look awkward at the end of the day when you have, you know, 5 or 6 new equally spaced October glories around the perimeter of the property, and then this huge tree standing behind it? I don't know.
To add to that, I didn't understand why the 3 October glories were placed where they were. So I was going to ask that question when that time came.
I think they should be spaced along the perimeter of property, maybe 50, 60 foot apart all around, but.
Agree.
I'll make note of that to the landscape architect. So do 3 along Concord and 2 along Fairfield.
Yeah, I mean, and then the question of the 21-inch tree, you know,
Well, yeah,
I don't know if the board has a preference either way. But I if you're going to save it, I'm concerned that the location that you're showing of the drain pipes, on paper, it looks like it'll work, but in the field, it'll probably be something different.
Understood. We can actually relocate the drain pipe, obviously, around the root system. I mean, the way it's shown now, we're about 10 feet off the tree itself. We could make it, 15 feet off to, further remove it from the tree. And, I'm guessing that decision could be made, down the road when it's by the owner.
Yeah, Mr. DeGennaro, the owner indicated to me he'd leave it up to you and the board. If you want to remove, he'll remove it and put in new trees now, whatever the board's preference is.
Mr. Boris, the only question I have, or actually Mr. DeGennaro, so over by the stabilized construction access shown on the plot plan, that's where they're actually proposing one of those new trees to go. So it sounds like maybe the move is to shift them around, have 2 on that exposure on Fairfield, and then 3 along Concord. And for me, maybe a simple thing is if it's a net zero change, where if you have to remove that tree, you add one more shade tree. Maybe that's the answer to it. We don't want to have a tree that, one, may not be in the greatest shape, and two, if it's going to be impacted by the storm drain, by that trench drain, you can reconfigure that catch base and the seepage pit wherever you want. But I mean, at some point, you're probably going to run into an issue where it's going to be too close to that one tree that we're trying to save. So, I mean, Mr. Boris, I don't know how you feel. I think if it's a net zero, I don't necessarily have a problem if they keep that 24-inch tree, or they don't. If they take it down, add one more shade tree.
I agree. Let's leave it up to the homeowner. You know, again, Mr. DeGennaro, by moving you could even move those seepage tanks to the center of the front yard and run the pipe along the driveway and then bring it into the tanks, and you would not affect that tree's root system much at all. So that would be another option, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I just did a quick sketch. I'm thinking that they locate those 3 October glories like 10 feet inside the property line approximately, and then spaced out. So right where it says on the site plan, proposed 1-story porch addition, right in the middle, basically put a tree right there, and then one on the corner, and then one, I was going to say, to the right of the driveway where he's got all those evergreens planted, sea junipers.
Yeah.
Maybe one in there. But you know, I'll leave that up to you and the landscape architect to figure out what looks best. But I just think that if the storm drain is going to be where it is, there's going to need to be some vigilance as far as how they install it, because all too often they'll just cut right through the roots and say, well, that's what the engineer's plan calls for it. That's where we have to put it. And then it's too late. And then all this discussion is for naught.
Okay, well, I guess the option is they either leave the seepage pit relatively close to where it is and remove the 24, add one more shade tree, or shift the seepage pit down or further to the north along Concord, and maybe just put a 90 right on where it comes off the driveway, run it like Mr. Bohr said, kind of along the driveway, and then down into the seepage pit, try to avoid that 24-inch. I think we're kind of splitting hairs at this point. There's been a lot of activity on this site as it is. A lot of things have come down. So for me personally, unless one of the other board members has an issue, as long as it's a net zero, whereas if that 24 has to come out, replace it with another one, and I think we have a pretty good plan of where to space these. But it does sound like, just for the edification of the applicant, the 3 that are shown on that southeast corner should be spaced apart. They're probably not best suited as shown. That's what I'm hearing.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
While we're referencing the landscape plan, Mr. DeGennaro, are you comfortable with the labeling of this plan? I must have studied this thing for 15 minutes to finally figure out what plants were what plants, because the color code and the key, just nothing jived for me. So,
I've seen worse. I mean, the size of scale is pretty good, so it's legible. But I could work with this. I don't.
Right. That's fine. Just not everything's labeled, and it's becomes.
Well, you got to look at the design.
Yeah.
You got to look at the patterns, right? And that's you know, I've seen a lot of plans like that.
And the quantities.
Right. Well, you got to look at the right.
The quantities are really going to
The quantities are
the symbology is, a lot of them are the same.
The quantities are listed.
They are.
Yeah, no, but since the symbology, a lot of these are similar. You can it's difficult to differentiate between whatever it is. You go by the quantities.
That's my point. Yes. That's fine if you want to do it that way, by the quantity.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good if you're good.
Well, we're Rutgers grad, guys.
I'm good if you're both good. All right, board members, any other questions or comments on the Cangelosi application?
While we're on trees, on the southwest side, there is, on the engineer's plan, there's an 18-inch tree that's shown as existing. Is that one staying? Because they're showing on the landscape plan a gate's going right there. So I just want to make sure we're not taking another one out.
I believe that's to remain. I think the gate is going to be a little bit farther to the right from where we're showing on the landscape plan.
Okay, so that 18-inch tree is staying then.
This tree is staying right here, right?
Which is the pine, was that the pine tree?
And that's
That
gone.
Oh, that's gone.
pine tree's gone.
I'm corrected. Yeah, it's gone. I didn't, it was there when we first started this, but apparently it was taken out probably by the prior owner. Was it?
No, I know there was a tree came down across the street.
Yeah,
during the
you're
storm.
right, it's one of it, but it belongs to the next door property.
Okay.
It's in the property line.
All right, so that tree is gone, so the gate stays where it is.
Okay.
The 18 is not there?
No, wait, that's there, it's there. Never mind, it's there.
It's there. It's there.
It's there.
What?
It's
It's
there.
right on the property line,
It's
somewhere
there.
said. Yeah,
Okay.
It's there. It's gonna
There.
stay.
I'm gonna say.
So it's actually on the landscape plan.
Somewhere said,
If you look closely, it's kind of faded out,
you know,
but it's
Oh,
in the
there it is.
background.
Yeah,
You see
yeah,
it?
there it is. Yep.
So that's staying.
Yep.
And the gate will get shifted over so that it doesn't conflict with the tree, right?
Correct.
Okay. Move gate.
I
Okay,
think I see it on the pictures from last month. I think it's on the seventh picture. If you numbered the pictures, I think it's the seventh one from the front.
shows, location.
Again, I don't know based on the date of the picture versus if it's still there, but it's this picture. I don't know if you can see that.
yep,
Pictures were taken about 2 weeks before the initial hearing date on this.
Okay, yeah, so that tree I think is still there. If it's the one I'm looking at right to the left of the, right behind it, it looks like the caution tape.
that might be the same one that's in picture 2.
Yep, it seems similar, correct.
Okay. It's there. Approved it. Well, at least it was when the picture was taken.
Exactly.
It will remain.
Okay, board, nothing else? No other comments? If not, I'll open it up to the public. Ms. Mitchell, do we have anyone from the public?
There is one attendee. I don't know which application, James Leach. Mr. Leach?
Mr. Leach, can you hear us?
He has to unmute himself.
From the public, they want to know if they're commenting on your application.
Again, the public.
Mr. Leach, are you calling on this application for Concord Place?
No.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Okay, seems that we have, we can close the public comments, Ms. Mitchell. All right.
yes.
Board, if there's anything else to be discussed or any questions or comments for the applicant, or the homeowner or the engineer, by all means, bring it to the table now. All right, seeing none. All right, then I will entertain a motion on the Cangelosi application, 535 Concord Place, block 311, lot 3.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve Cangelosi application, block 311, lot 3, 535 Concord Place. I guess, what are we going to call this? Version 2, as submitted.
Okay.
Oh,
thank you,
sorry.
Mr. Overbeck.
Hold on, I amend that. Regarding our tree discussion, we'll make it at the homeowner's discretion, as long as there is a net planting of 6 shade trees, or 6 shade trees, I'll say, in the front yard, along the perimeter of Concord, and what's that other street?
Fairfield?
Fairfield, yes, please, and the of the trees along Fairfield are supposed to be, we'll say equidistantly spaced along Concord. Sorry, I think I just said Fairfield. I apologize.
Okay,
I don't know how else you want to phrase that.
That's fine.
I think that's fine. And Mr. DeGenero, you mentioned a soil permit. Is that something we have to have in the resolution?
Yeah, I would just reference that you're approving the soil moving application that exceeds 100 cubic yards of soil disturbance for the purpose of creating a driveway.
So
So-
I will include that in the resolution if it's approved.
Okay, yeah, so amended in my motion.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rubenacker. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Bors. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riato,
Yes.
Mr. Christ,
Yes.
Miss Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay. Congratulations. I think you made a nice move bifurcating the application,
Work.
Mr. Cook, last meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good holiday, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep, happy holidays.
Okay, the next application we'll hear is the Brinza application, 305 Voorhees Ave, block 287, lot 5.01. Is that Mr. Hambrecht?
Yes,
Okay.
Who will be testifying? I dig it. You will, Mr. Hambrecht, or is either of the applicants going to be testifying tonight?
well, I'll certainly be speaking to the design of the space and the intent of the portico, yes.
I'm going to swear you in. Either of the applicants, will you be testifying tonight?
We'll defer to Stephen for most questions.
All right, if you do, then I'll swear you in at that time. So, Mr. Hambrecht, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could state your name for the record, spelling your last name, and also giving your business address.
Okay, my name is Stephen Hambrecht. That's Hambrecht. My business address is 127 East Ridgewood Avenue in Ridgewood, New Jersey. I'm with Hambrecht Olson Design. I'm the architect for the Brinzes.
I take it you're licensed here in New Jersey,
I am indeed.
and if you appeared before boards such as this one or other boards in the past.
I have.
Okay, and just briefly, if you could tell us just your educational background and type of projects you do.
Okay, I graduated from Pratt Institute in 1986, so now you know how old I am. And we've been in business 20 years. I've been doing a wide variety of residential work and commercial work throughout the entire United States. We do work all over the states.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Hambrecht's qualifications are acceptable.
Thank you, Chairman Fry.
And you're going to be testifying as the architect, you said, correct?
Correct.
And so he's been accepted as an expert in architecture.
Okay. Why don't you tell us what you're planning to do?
Okay, so our plan is to add a portico over the existing front steps of the house at 305 Voorhees Ave. The front steps were reconstructed in kind as part of a permit that was approved earlier this year, permit number 20-0738. The front steps were in disrepair. They were rebuilt. And as part of this application, we are proposing to add a portico to shield the homeowners as they enter the front door from the weather.
All right, so you're here before us. This was kind of unique, myself included. As I pulled up, I'm like, wait a minute, this house is already under construction. How is it just getting to the board now? And then in looking at it, I understood that a lot of what you're doing is conforming.
Correct.
So the portico, however, there are two reasons really you're here. One is impervious coverage, and you have the existing principal building, which is already at 16.7, and proposed building is going to be 17.4, where you're permitted 15%. So is the difference between the 16.7 to the 17.4, is that purely the portico?
Yes. Yes, we're not, the impervious coverage is an existing conditions that the homeowner, when they purchase the property, we're not increasing the impervious coverage of the property.
So it's not listed what the existing was. So
Well, the existing impervious coverage is listed on the front cover as 6,267 square feet, which is 47.3% of the property, which is in excess of the zoning. But that's an existing condition.
Okay, I see it. 47.3.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is there a catch basin? Is there anything proposed to capture the runoff of the roof, or anything that might not have been captured previously?
No, there's no proposal for that. I said the existing asphalt is there. We do have the roof that we have gutters for, and there's no additional catch basin being proposed. No.
Where do all the leaders go to currently and proposed? Is there a seepage pit already that's existing?
There's a seepage pit in the rear yard. The front gutters deposit the runoff onto the front lawn.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Where is the seepage pit in the rear yard? That's a little concerning to me.
The seepage pit in the rear yard.
Could you possibly be mistaken that for the septic?
I may be. Let me check the plans. I know there's three tanks.
Yeah, so there's a septic tank. With
Yeah,
two
there's septic tanks in the back. I'm sorry, there's no seepage pit in the backyard. It's
Yeah.
all the gutters run off onto the property.
Right. Yeah, that's what that would make sense. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Board, any comments on the front portico? Why don't we take a look at that first?
Just to confirm, we're only covering the existing stoop and we're not even covering the stairs. Basically, everything at ground level stays the same. We're only covering the stoop piece.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
No questions.
I have no questions.
No questions? Pretty cut and dry what they're looking to do.
Yes.
So certainly, as far as a portico, my personal opinion, provided it isn't over exaggerated, which this one, personally speaking, is probably borderline at the size that it is. And the reason I say that is there are some homes on that street that have been developed through the years, and they have managed to create an overhang over the front steps. So for a safety purpose, some of the houses actually don't. And so then you're exposed to the elements, and from a safety standpoint, it really doesn't make sense. So we understand the need for it. If it was any larger, I'd probably say I don't think it needs to be as large as it is. It's, in my opinion, it's probably borderline being too large, but you're only going to what's existing with the front steps. So I can probably live with that. Anyone else have any comments on the portico? Okay. The house does have an existing generator. The generator is just kind of floating in the back right now.
That's correct.
Is that where it's going to be located?
It's an existing generator and it's staying where it is. That's
Staying where it is. Okay.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
We're not relocating that. No.
Okay. It's off the property line considerably.
Yeah.
And there's considerable screening on that side too.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure why. At first, I didn't realize there was a generator, but I saw it's depicted in the elevation detail number 3. I'm looking, I'm like, is that a transfer switch? And then I went to the backyard and I saw it just kind of sitting out there in the middle of the grass. Okay. All right. And I'm correct that any of the dormers, anything else that you're doing, they're all outside the setbacks.
That's correct. Right.
Okay. Is there anything new with the fireplace? Is there something going to the left of the portico?
Well, the fireplace, yes, it's an enclosure that the front edge of the enclosure was within the 40-foot setback. So I initially included that in this variance, and then after a conversation with Mark DeGennaro, he explained that since it was already, the enclosure was already behind the line of the front of the home, that it would not be included in this variance. So it's a gas fireplace, enclosure off the side of the house.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Board, any other questions for the architect? All right. If not, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone from the public care to speak on the Brinza application, 305 Voorhees Ave? Mr. Leach?
No, we're good.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Did we only have one person on the line, Maureen? You're muted.
Yeah, we only had that one caller, and I guess he's just listening in.
Okay. All right. Very good. Then we'll close the public comments. Okay. All right. The board is pretty quiet so far. All right. I don't think I have anything else dimensionally on the portico. Like I said, I think if it was any larger, I'd probably have a little bit more of an issue with it. You're going right to the front of that top landing that's existing. 6'6". Mr. Dunkerslew would be having a heart attack right now, but I think it's probably okay. Board, any other final comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you touched on it. I was waiting to see if you had any proposal on it, but the impervious coverage is existing, and there are no dry wells on the property. This is like a perfect example of how we can make a condition or situation better for a house that has roof leaders dumping on the ground, just by adding a new dry well, possibly in the front yard. Can't do it in the backyard because the septic is back there. But even if they were able to pick up half of the existing roof area of the structure in the front yard and dump a seepage pit right off maybe to the left of the front steps in the front yard there, that would be a big help. And being that the area doesn't have storm drains, that would be a recognizable improvement.
I'm glad you brought that point up. And when it really comes to light is when you see all the driveway that goes to the back of the house. So they're exceeding that impervious coverage. And one of the ways to help mitigate some of the issues because of that is to have that, which is kind of why I asked the question. Mr. Hamrick, the board does view it as an opportunity to make an improvement. You're looking to make an improvement. Would your client be willing to entertain adding a seepage pit, probably for their benefit as well, for potential future issues, runoff, excess water on their own property? Would probably be a benefit while you're doing all this construction.
Well, it's certainly something we have not discussed. I would have to discuss that with them. I wouldn't want to answer for them.
I think they're on. Would you like
They're
to?
on. We
call
could
them?
actually ask them, or phone a friend and ask them.
Why don't you phone a friend? I think it would. I think it would be advantageous for them to do that for the good of the application, for them as well. They're doing a lot of nice work on the house. There's so much asphalt on that property as it is. I would think they may probably want that to begin with.
Why don't I go ahead and swear in the applicant, Chairman?
Sure.
You raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could state your name, spelling your last name for the record.
Sure. It's John Brinza. Chairman, if I got it right, it's BRYNDZA.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think we should give the applicant as well as their architect, 5 minutes if they want to, put themselves on mute to talk in private, instead of us putting the pressure on them here in front of the whole board. I think that would be fair.
I agree. If you want to, put yourselves on mute and call one another, that'd be more
Okay.
comfortable. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well done.
We'll just stay here and talk about you. Ms. Mitchell, how does January look so far? Applications.
It's going to be busy. It's going to be busy. Yeah. We were actually, I was telling Dave earlier, we were actually supposed to have 6 applications on for tonight. And it dropped down to 2 just the end of last week, because 3 of the applications that were to be on tonight are all Harold Cook's, and he asked to wait until January. So those 3 will be on in January. And the 4th one that dropped off had an issue with their, the record didn't get their notice published when it was supposed to. So they could not be heard. So the 4 that would have been on tonight will be on for January, in addition to possibly a couple of others. So it's going to be busy.
Okay. For January, will you be putting together a 2020 report that shows all the applicants, all the applications that came through, any that were successful, any that were not successful, to kind of do it? I think you do like a year-end synopsis.
Yes.
Will you be able to put something together for the January meeting?
Yes. I've been working on it. I was just waiting for this last meeting of the year to be complete. Like, I've been keeping track of everything all along. So it's basically just kind of a grid, how many applications came in, what type of application it was, like bulk variances for the most part for you guys. How many were withdrawn, how many were approved. The number was low this year compared to over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it was very low.
Well,
The number of applicants.
we missed 2 meetings that we didn't
Right.
meet, and I think even when we got back up, we were a little slower virtual. And I also think it was slow with attorneys filing things because they didn't know what was going on. So
Yeah.
I think this year contributed to that. We'll also have to do the reorg on that first meeting in January as well.
Yep.
So it's going to be a long meeting.
Yep. Fun. Maureen, can you also just have a column in there if an application, if it was approved, just identify if it was the first, the initial submittal, or if it went to a revision, or how many revisions until it was approved?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up when you first started talking.
Can you just add in your report, just add a column, if it was approved, just identify if it was on the initial submission and review of the board, or if it took, a second revision or even a third. I think it's important just so we can identify that, you know, the board has a lot of dialogue with each applicant. It isn't just everyone comes through. Sometimes they're denied, sometimes we have a discussion, they revise it, and then they come back. So I think it's important to just identify if they did have to come back either 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, however many times.
Well, the way I do have it now is I don't have the name and address of every application on this report. I have the type of application. Was it approved? Was it withdrawn? Was it denied? And then underneath the grid, I have that I believe it was 3 applicants were asked to submit revised architectural plans. It's just a general, it doesn't say who. 3 applicants were asked to submit revised architectural plans to be more in line, you know, in keeping with the township code. And 5 applicants were actually asked to submit revised landscape plans. Off the top of my head, that's what I'm remembering. It was 3 needed to come back with revised architecturals and 5 needed to come back with revised landscaping.
Okay, it's more important, I think, just to identify if someone did have to come back, they did have to revise. It's good to understand why they did, if it's a landscape plan, if it's an architectural drawing, whatever it is, it's good to identify that as well. But I think what's important is just to identify if they did have to come back before the board on more than one occasion.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you. They're back.
Hello, we're back.
How was your conversation?
It was delightful.
Delightful for us as well. So upon consultation with our architect, we will add the catch basin to the front yard.
Okay. All right, good.
Yeah, I would just make sure we understand, it's gonna be a dry well. Right,
Dry well.
Steve?
Dry well.
Are you versed in how to size it?
No, but I will.
If you call me, we're gonna have a conversation and I'll step you along. And I would just suggest that it goes someplace in the front. Can't put it in the back because you have septic back there. So we could have that conversation offline and
Okay.
All right.
All right. And then we'll have to reflect that when we submit the drawings to the building department for review.
Yeah,
we'll
we'll just, you could just sketch in a dry well. If it'll be a dry well, it'd probably be 1,000 gallon or 500 gallon dry well with stone, depending on the size, but I'll help you with that.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you. I think that's a good move, folks. You'll be happy.
Okay.
Okay, so one note, and then that'll be reflected on the site plan as well. Add one dry well.
Yep.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, board, any final questions for Mr. Hambrick, the architect?
Just one final question that I noticed. And on the landscape plan, is any of that new versus existing? I couldn't tell. Is it all new except for the arborvitae?
The trees in the back left are existing, and all the arborvitaes along the property line on the right are existing. The remaining shrubs are all new because they've all been removed as part of the construction. So
okay, so all foundation plantings are new. Understood.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I guess my follow-up to that is to our expert, Mr. Borst. Any comments or questions?
I think the plant selection's fine. The only thing I just want to comment on is on the left side, close to the driveway, there are, I think there's 4 plants that are not labeled. So I don't know, for Mr. DeGennaro's sake, again, if he's going by the quantities, it's not a big deal. But there are a few that are not labeled. So, but the way I understand it, Mark, you're discounting quantities and that's it. So.
No, I didn't say that. I'm not sure how you interpreted that.
No. I mean, if it's labeled as 6 hydrangea, you're looking for 6 hydrangea.
Right, but I also look at the little schematic, like this is different because they got letters to
Yeah,
identify what each letter is. So I'm not sure what's confusing about this to you.
it's not. All I'm saying is that there's
Oh, there
four,
are 3 that aren't identified?
yeah, there's 4 plants that are not
4.
identified.
Yeah, along that front walk.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. So if you go to look at this site, in the quantities in the plant schedule jive with what's planted.
So I got you. There's four, 1, 2, 3.
It's 4, yes, there's 4 that don't have
They
designations.
don't have
on them.
designations to them.
Oh, there's another one on the right-hand side towards the back.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would assume that would be all A's, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And I would same on the other side, but yeah, I get it. I see what you're saying there. On the previous application, I certainly didn't look at it that closely, but the other one wasn't as detailed as this one. There's a difference between these two, right, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I'm just, again,
I would go by the quantities here, and I would say, okay, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 along the back, and if there's only 4 and there are 3, there's a problem, right?
yeah. My only comment to you is some of these things are going to be quite expensive as the way you've sized. So I don't know, a blue-made holly 6 to 8 foot is a very expensive plant per piece, and you're using 22 of them. So I don't know if maybe you might want to rethink, same thing with the hydrangea, a 5-foot hydrangea. They usually come in gallons, not, a 5 gallon, a 3 gallon. A 5 gallon is a 2-foot tall plant. If you're specifying a 5-foot tall hydrangea, unfortunately, you're going to have to put a 5-foot one in. You're probably thinking that these are the mature size, what they get to at
Yes.
point, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think you might want to redo this plant schedule to say what size to put in.
Plant size, yeah, it's a good point.
I can do that.
And again, the blue boy that you're using here, holly, beautiful plant. It is. You might just want to check on some plant prices before you spec it all holly. It could get a little costly.
Mark, do we want to put like a minimum size that we would require?
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to do that right now, I mean, that's fine. I could suggest the hollies, a 3 to 4 foot would be a good size. The hydrangeas, 5 gallon would be fine. The pentacetum, 3 gallon. The boxwood, I would suggest a 24 inch. And the juniper down at the bottom, I'm not sure where you're using those.
They're on the corners of the building.
Yeah. I mean, those could be a 4 or 5 footer, 6 footer. 6 footer probably be nice. It's not a costly plant. So we could take care of it that way and be done with it.
We just paid for the dry well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm
See how we
wondering,
work?
Mark, I'm just wondering if, you're pointing that out, that size is 6 to 8 foot
Yeah.
of these hollies along the entire perimeter of the house. I mean, it almost looks like it's going to completely shield the house. It's only a 1-story, really.
Well, the blue boy that he's referring to really gets about 5 foot in height. It doesn't really get up to 8 foot. That's like maybe 20 years from now.
Oh,
If pruning it. So
I think I'll be retired by then.
yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
I won't worry about it.
I think the other sizes are reasonable size, not going to kill the bank. So and we just
Okay,
say
so we made some modifications. Mr. Hambrick, did you took notes in the
I did, very
version of the
quickly.
landscape plan?
I did. holly 3 to 4 feet, hydrangea 5 gallon, pennisecum 3 gallon, boxwood 24 inches, juniper 6 foot.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. So you'll revise that so it's on final submission. It would be accurate to what the board requires.
Correct. I will.
Okay. Board, anything else? Okay.
No.
All right. All right, then I will entertain a motion on the Brinza application, 305 Voorhees Ave, block 287, lot 5.01.
So moved with the changes to the plan list.
Okay, motion by Mr. Borst. Just to recap, it'll include the addition of the dry well in the front, to be coordinated with Mr. DeGennaro, and the modification as discussed of the landscape plants.
Yes.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rubenacker. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Tanis,
Yes.
Mr. Kalpagian,
Yes.
Mr. Hubert,
Yes.
Ms. Riado,
Yes.
Mr. Christ,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Rubenacker,
Yes.
Mr. Borst,
Yes.
Chairman Fry.
Yes. Okay. Congratulations. Looks like things are moving along on construction as is. Good luck with the portico, and have a great holiday.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for all your
Happy
time.
holiday.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, board. Another year in the books. So I think Ms. Evans responded back, so everyone, I guess, is probably aware at this point. I just want to say, Kim, it was a pleasure having you on the board. Hopefully it was a positive experience for you. We wish you luck with everything that you're doing in the future, and hope you have a great holiday.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry it was so quick. I feel like this year with Zoom and everything and not being in person, it just flew by, but I learned so much, and everybody on this board, just the most respect and your professionalism. Like I said in my email, our town's very lucky to have you guys volunteer your time. And thank you for everything.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Best wishes.
All right, board, anything else to come up?